we're going to talk about this in real time. When this news came through, okay? When this news came through, I was literally stunned. Literally stunned. I was sitting here and I was just frozen. I was just looking at the screen. I was just looking at Twitter. This picture right here, this photo of Derek, and it's just horrific cut job on the shirt. I was just staring at it. Just staring at the Edward Scissorhand just disaster over here on the left and over here on the right. And I was befuddled. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. So let's break it down from every single angle. Let's talk about what this means for the Saints and the contract. Derek Carr had a clause in the contract where if he could not pass a physical by March 17th or something like that, it was somewhere in there, then his contract, or the $30 million or whatever, was fully guaranteed. No ifs, ands, or buts. Nothing they could have done about it. Now, the restructure didn't necessarily deal with the injury clause, but it did restructure that $30 million, if you remember. It got turned into signing bonuses and got turned into all kind of other stuff, all right? Now, the next question is, when did he get injured? Because if he got injured in the 2024 season, then it doesn't matter. If he got injured outside of the 2024 season, as in he got injured working out on his own, he got injured somewhere else, it was a totally different situation, there is a chance that they could void the contract, or there's a chance that they could get money back, or that there could be even more an economic waterfall, okay? So that's the next thing we have to look at. The next thing we need to pay attention to is the actual injury itself. When, where did it happen, and what that means for his monies. All right? So keep an eye out on that. The next question is, why did this come out 13 days before the draft? Well, let's read Big Mikey Florio. Mike Florio, the Saints have a sudden quarterback problemo. Derek Carr, via Ian Rapoport, has a shoulder injury. Carr is considering his options, blah, 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 blah. If it was something that occurred during the 2024 season, the Saints will have to pay Carr's full salary. All right. If it happened somewhere else, the Saints could be able to not pay his salary. Now remember, it's important how that restructure happened. So his restructuring got thrown into signing bonuses and salary and all kind of other stuff, right? So if they are expecting to void the salary, maybe they're expecting to void some of that restructure. We don't know. This is all in real time. Or recover money previously paid. Regardless, it makes the Saints even more. We'll talk about this part. If you're wondering why this is getting out 13 days before round one, go back and read the last paragraph. Carr would have no reason to want to be undermined by the drafting of Sanders. Now that the cat is out of the bag regarding a shoulder injury, there's an increased chance he'll be gone before the Saints can put his name on the card. Now, this part I'm not so sure about, because this part makes it sound like they were like release him. Now, I guess what Florio is saying is that if it turns out that the injury happened outside of the field on his own, then the Saints would not pay his salary, i.e. cut him, basically, and not have to pay. Now, again, who the hell knows? All right? Who knows how that'll all work out? Something to think about. All right? Now, what does this mean for Shedeur? Okay? So the next question is, what does this mean for the drafting process and Shedeur Sanders? He's talking about Shedeur being gone, not Carr. So you're saying that Shedeur Why would that mean Shedeur would be gone? Why would you? What do you mean? So now let's talk about what this means for Shedeur. My initial reaction is that this positively impacts the Saints' chance to get Shedeur. It negatively impacts Shedeur. Okay? Because who will trade up? That y'all keep saying people will trade up. Who? Why would Carr's injury impact someone? You're saying because they know the Saints want Shedeur, so they'll trade up ahead of the Saints? But then you could just say the Saints would trade up for him. I think Florio means. We'll see about that. That part's confusing me. We don't want Shedeur playing on day one, right? So the whole point, or like why the Saints were such a good landing spot, was because Derek Carr was there, and the Saints knew, well, we have Carr for a year. We have to have Carr. We have to let Carr play for at least one season. The contract was set up like that. So let Carr play. Let Shedeur sit. Shedeur can learn. There's no pressure, all that stuff, and then he can take over. That was one of the biggest benefits. All right. But now we would be drafting Shedeur to potentially either start him straight away, or do you draft Shedeur, let Rattler start, and let Rattler be the bridge? That would be weird, right? So now the question is, if they do release Carr, if something happens with Carr and they're voiding the contracts or not paying whatever, do you go get a veteran? Well, what vets are out there? Joe Flacco just signed. Jameis Winston signed. Aaron Rodgers is out there. But now I would assume Pittsburgh is hot and heavy for Aaron Rodgers, because Pittsburgh now knows the Saints need a quarterback. So there's a lot of moving pieces with this. This is a very complex situation now. And on one hand, I think people can see this and say, okay, well, good, right? Good. This means we're definitely going to get Shedeur. But I think it kind of complicates things. I really do. And I would say it takes us, I'm not going to say it takes us a step back with Shedeur, but it complicates that pick much more. And now Shedeur has to be a sure thing. And some people in the chat are saying, does this mean now you revisit trading up for Cam Ward? I don't know about that. I think that might be finito as well. But the Saints do lose a ton of leverage, for sure. For sure. All right, let me read some of the chat here. Carr said, I want my money. I don't know about that. We got to wait and see on that. We got to wait and see on that one. I need some controversy in my life. This is definitely controversy. Next year's draft is the year to draft a quarterback. I don't understand why people say this. One, you have no idea who's going to be in the class. People say Arch Manning. Arch Manning could just stay in college. We have no idea how good the quarterbacks are going to be. Drew Aller at Penn State sucks out loud. Garrett Nussmeier, are we even sure Nussmeier is better than Shedeur? Is he better than, like, how good is he? Right? You have no idea who the draft class will include. You have no idea the level of the players in the draft class. You have no idea where your pick will be. The Saints could be better as a whole, picking in the teens or the 20s. There's so many unknowns in next year's class. So get the whole, like, draft next year, not this year. You have no clue what next year is going to look like. You do know this year. You do know where you're picking, who's picking around you, who's in the draft class, how they look, what your grades are with them. All right. We need a vet. Yeah, right now we kind of do. Right now we kind of do need a vet. Now, I don't know if that vet is Aaron Rodgers. Okay. I don't know about that. Because Rodgers, I don't know, like he's more expensive, like but he is kind of, it depends on what his deal would look like. But Rodgers plus Shedeur, granted that Carr would have to get released and all that. Like, it would have to be a. Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, it's even more complicated now. Bridgewater back to Nola. I don't. That's not the bridge we're talking about. Carr is legit sticking it to us. So again, we got to wait and see, because if the contract does get voided, and if we can recoup some money, then the Saints kind of come out ahead of that. So we got to wait and see how the injury and all that plays out. Jimmy G is a thought. Jimmy G is a thought. Yeah. Let's see here. Jimmy G is nice. Hell no to Rodgers. Rodgers. Would it even be possible to get Rodgers? Yeah. Ryan Tannehill. Tannehill's a thought. Yeah. Tannehill's a thought. Tannehill, I feel. Sanders, that'd be wild. Zach Wilson? No, Zach Wilson would not qualify. If you're going to get a vet, okay? If you're going to get a vet, it has to be a vet that you're comfortable with playing. Like, it has to be a guy who you're like, all right, look, we're okay with him playing for 10 games, 11 games, 12 games, whatever. And then you may turn it over to Shedeur if you end up drafting Shedeur. The answer is clear. Jake Haener. No, Jake Haener will not be part of this equation. I can promise you that. We aren't sinking $80 million. I don't think Rodgers isn't going to be $80 million. I really think this is Jake Haener's year. This might be Jake Haener's year to explore, like, being investing in a car wash or investing in, like, storage facility or something. But it's not going to be his year to play quarterback for the Saints. How are we forgetting Rattler? Rattler is in an interesting situation because of the coaching staff. Very interesting. Very rarely does a guy get drafted and then a completely new staff comes in and the completely new staff accepts that guy as their guy. Like Justin Fields in Chicago. It just sometimes, like, you know, sometimes they just kind of get lost in the shuffle to no fault of their own. Let's see. So, I mean, at this point now, like, you almost, like, you almost have to draft Shedeur, right? Like, you almost have to at this situation with this spot. But you have Rattler, and then you have Shedeur. And your quarterback room is crazy young at that point. Like, your quarterback room is Spencer Rattler, who played half the season. You know, he's a fifth-round rookie, or was a fifth-round rookie, plays half the season in a weird situation. Everyone is learning this offense at the same time, so no one has, like, an advantage as far as, like, knowing the offense or any of that stuff. You'd have Spencer Rattler. You'd have Jake Haener, who's got, like, some kind of post-traumatic stress disorder after his start last year, who I don't even know, like, what do you even do with that? And then you could potentially have Shedeur Sanders. You have to get a vet. Like, you have to get a vet. What are we doing here? Let's see. I'm trying to mod while only my boy Bucks was in here to help me mod. I got to remember how to mod. How do I do this? I got to figure it out. I'll figure it out. Don't worry. I'll figure it out. I'll figure out the modding situation. Taysom may not be ready until do not factor in Taysom. I'll tell you that. Don't factor in Taysom. I mean, he's a, like, way later in the season. Way later. You think he got hurt on his own? That's the question. That is the next question. The next question is, where did the injury happen? How did the injury happen? That's the next question. Because if the injury happened on his own or happened outside of the Saints facility or didn't happen in a game, any of that stuff, then all of a sudden you start looking at, okay, well, what does that mean as far as this contract? What does that mean as far as the restructure? Is there a way you void out? Is there a way you recoup money? Is there a way you have to release? Like, what happens then? That is the question. Drew Lock or Huntley? Kellen Moore. Kellen Moore is officially the best quarterback in the room. That kind of is crazy. I mean, it's kind of a like. Let me see if I can do some modding here. That kind of is crazy, but it kind of is true that. I think I got it. Wait. I think I got it. All right. I think I just successfully modded. Ladies and gentlemen. I mean, Kellen Moore is definitely the veteran quarterback in the room. No doubt about that. No doubt about that part. Let's get some applause in the chat for me modding mid-stream and getting Future up out of here. I'm calling it now Rattler Taysom Warren. Face of the France, the best in the world. Draft Sanders, start Taysom. I got bad news. Taysom is big hurt. That is not going to be the case. He's been in California. He definitely need to get hurt here. Yeah, I mean, that might be right. Socher, Mississippi, stand up. Bro is about to accidentally pull up the Bonnie Blue tape. Not me. Not me, not never. More of a Lily Phillips kind of guy. Man, I mean, this is nuts. Like, this is absolutely insane. Absolutely insane. Carr has totaled us. These Carr puns, y'all got the Carr puns on lock. Let's see. Has anything else happened since then? Do we have any new news? Let's go to latest. See the latest. Nope. Got some people playing some slots. Let's see. No, I need some new info. I need new info here. Okay, nothing. Nothing. Yeah, nothing. I'm waiting for that like injury info. We probably won't get it, honestly. We probably will have to sit and wait. But I mean, no doubt about it, like I would say and this is, you know, I'm not splitting the atom here, but the guarantee, the absolute guarantee is like it's over. Like, it's done. There is no more maybe Derek Carr, or maybe he can do this, or maybe Carr in the future, or maybe whatever. Like, that's not this all but guarantees, like, we saw the last snap of Derek Carr in that Giants game. Does this force the Saints to draft a quarterback even if Sanders isn't available? That's a good question. So CJ brings up a good question. So let's say Sanders goes 3, right? Let's say it goes Cam Ward 1, Travis Hunter 2, and Sanders goes 3 to the Giants. In that situation, that's worst case situation, because then I don't think you reach for Dart at 9 with the thought Jackson Dart's going to be our day 1 starting quarterback. So if you do that, or if that happens, then you probably say, let's roll with Rattler. And maybe you take someone later, like maybe you take McCord or Ewers or Milrow, or whoever the front office likes. like maybe you wait and take them, and you do see what Rattler has, and you go get a vet. You go get Ryan Tannehill. You go get somebody who, if Rattler falls apart, then you play the vet. You play Tannehill. You play whoever the vet is. Maybe that's the case. Like maybe that's what you do there, right? But I don't think you wouldn't just. We're not just like exclusively taking a quarterback at 9 now and starting whoever that quarterback is. That's not the case. That would be a horrible decision if the Saints were like, you know what, because then, like, that's what complicates this, ladies and gentlemen, is that in that line of thinking, you're not just drafting your franchise quarterback or whoever you think could develop or whoever you think whatever. You're drafting your week 1 at that point. So the lower you get on that board, as far as however you grade them out, as far as the Saints, like what is their order, the farther down you get, the closer you get to Spencer Rattler. And all of a sudden then it's like, well, are we sure Kyle McCord is better than Spencer Rattler? No. Are we sure Will Howard's better than Spencer Rattler? No. So at that point you say, well, let's just take a good player at 9, whoever is there. Let's roll with Rattler. And maybe you take someone later because you certainly need someone else in the room, but this does change. Have we heard what caused the injury? No, we have not. No, we have not. It sounds like from the Twitter doctors, it sounds like it's a labrum tear, an AC joint or something, but the Skrmetta versus Marathon has not stopped. No, it has not. I was just about to crack a cold one. I was just about to get involved in a brewski, celebrate Friday, and this news drops right here. Gardner Minshew, that's like the level of vet. Take a quarterback later, not early. Okay. Now this is a good question as well. All right, so let's look at it like this. So now it's more imperative, like if Shedeur is there, it makes it even more imperative now to get him because of the unknown. Like you need Shedeur, Cam Ward. Like you need that level of player now if you're taking them at 9. Okay? Because this year is totally who the hell knows. Whereas before, if you don't take Shedeur, you're sitting there thinking like, well, I mean, we could take a quarterback this year, we could take one next year, but regardless, we got Derek Carr. So at least we know, right? At least we know, like worst case scenario, we still just have Derek Carr for a year. Now, take that, throw it out the window. Complete unknown. Girthquake, $2 from Girthquake. Cold one on me. Unbelievable, man. I really appreciate that. Thank you. If he got hurt playing pickleball, you would think like potentially the team could void out the deal or void out some of the deal or recoup or whatever. Who knows? But I would say this, and I'm just speculating. This is probably why they restructured his bonus or the $30 million. This is why they restructured it that way. If I had to guess. This just makes them keeping him for the season so much worse. I understand the contract and money didn't line up, but we probably could have traded him and finally got him off the books. So, all right, so let's talk about that, right? That ain't going to work, all right? So now let's look at the options that we previously had. Release him. He gets the monies. Trade him. He would have to pass the physical and all that stuff with another team. Is there a chance the Saints knew about the injury and knew how this was going to go down, which is why the restructure happened the way it did? Potentially. It is interesting. I mean, we're just conspiracy theorying it out now. Like we're in full-on tinfoil hat. Full on. But it is interesting now because of the report that Derek Carr was like looking at trades. He was looking at trades. He was looking at whatever. So theoretically, if he's looking at trades or looking at destinations, he has to be healthy. right? There's no way Derek Carr is looking for trade partners and looking for landing spots and looking for all that stuff if his shoulder is good, right? So then you're saying, well, if that's the case, he got hurt in between then and now. And if he got hurt in between then and now, like y'all said, the last place he's been is New Orleans. All right? This guy, he couldn't find New Orleans on a map. $5 from Cullen. Appreciate it, man. We used to pray for days like this. I don't know. That's another weird thing. That's a weird thing, is that this is not necessarily good nor bad news. This just muddies the water. This just makes everything really confusing. This just makes everything very complicated. But it doesn't necessarily, it's not good news. It ain't bad news. It's just a bunch of who the hell knows. And we got 13 days to figure it out. I'll tell you that. $10 from Ryan Ford. Jesus. Thank you, Ryan. Much appreciated. Didn't Carr just get a $10 million roster bonus? It was it got restructured. He was due a $30 million roster bonus. It got restructured, and they took the 10, and then they took the rest and converted it into signing bonuses and all of that. So, Dwayne, if you just tuned in, like, this part is complicated because dependent on what they turn the bonus into, whatever the verbiage is in the contract, and then whatever the injury is, there is a chance that money could get recouped or voided, or the salary could get voided. Like that's all. Who the hell knows, right? He probably, as far as like the money, yeah, the money we got to wait and see with the money. But I don't think that the money isn't. I don't think the money's as big of a deal as y'all are making it out to be. Dude knew we were looking for a quarterback and didn't want to get embarrassed when we picked one. That might be. I'll say this. If I was a betting man, ladies and gentlemen, I would bet / predict that this news was leaked or released or whatever 13 days before the draft so that Derek Carr could save face. That would be my prediction. $5, Shawnee boy. Throw the pads on and show them why you're the face of the franchise. We need you at quarterback. I'd light it up from about 25 yards and in. I'll tell you that. If they played me exclusively in the red zone, I'd be filthy. Filthy. Trust Rattler? It's an option now. Problem with Rattler, like, that's another thing too. Kellen Moore doesn't know Spencer Rattler. You know, like, he hasn't seen him play. I know he's seen like tape, or I know he's seen whatever the resources are, but he hasn't spent any time with him. You know what I mean? Like, he hadn't spent any time with Rattler on the field, in the locker room, looking at game. Like, none of that's happened. So I know we've seen Spencer Rattler. I know we've seen every snap he's played and all the interviews and whatever, but Kellen Moore hasn't. Like, he's only seen that from he's seen that from a TV screen or a videotape or whatever. He hasn't seen, like, that hasn't taken place. So I would think it's very difficult for Kellen Moore or the coaching staff to say, yeah, let's just put the entire franchise on this guy that I don't know at all. I'm joining late, so you might have discussed this, but is a leak of the news why the odds on drafting Shedeur were shifting? No, I don't think so. I think the odds. So let's talk about the odds. I think what shifted the odds to the Saints being the favorite was the Giants. When the Giants and the Browns were rumored to be out of the Shedeur market, I think then the obvious landing spot becomes the Saints. The Saints as the most likely landing spot, or at least the first crack at it. That's why the odds shifted. Now, the odds have shifted even more because not only are they the most likely landing spot or the first crack at it, but they desperately need a quarterback. You could argue before that the Saints, they could use a quarterback, but they didn't necessarily need a quarterback because they had Carr. But now it's like, no, they absolutely need one. So it expedites that process, which is why now they're like, whatever, plus 100, plus 110. They're probably maybe even money right now. $5. Jeremy, I appreciate that, man. Craziest offseason ever. Absolutely insane. Absolutely insane offseason. Carr's career is over in NOLA. Yeah, correct. He's done. Like, it's done now. It's done now. The Carr experience in New Orleans is done. It's over. It's not. It's finito. Because even if, and you could argue, and that's kind of what we were talking about 5 minutes ago, is like, that's probably why this got leaked, is because now the Sanders pick or whatever makes it look like they had to do it, and Carr didn't have a chance to compete, and if Carr, like it eliminates all of that, so Carr can just kind of fade away, and but yeah, I mean, this is definitely the end for sure, because if he even if we don't draft a quarterback, like, he's not playing, right? Like, he's out for the year. If he has surgery, he's out for the year, whatever. We start Rattler, then So if the Saints get out of the contract with Carr, what's the chance that the Saints pick up Aaron Rodgers? I think there's a conversation. Problem with Rodgers is it's like, how much money does he want? How long does he want to be? Like, if the Rodgers contract made sense, I'd be totally fine with getting Aaron Rodgers and drafting Shedeur or Jackson Dart or whoever Kellen Moore wants. I love Kellen like a brother. I'd be totally fine with getting Rodgers, drafting whoever, letting them sit, letting Rodgers play for a year, and then being gone. I'd be totally cool with that. But I don't know what the contract looks like. I don't know what Rodgers wants to do. All those conversations have to happen. All those conversations have to happen with the front office and Rodgers. Yeah, if Rodgers, I mean, if he's like, no, I want 2 years, $40 million, $45 million, it's like, we're not doing that. That's not a thing. At that point, you just play Rattler. If Rodgers is looking around, Rodgers is like, I just want to play. I'll do 1 year, whatever, $10 million, 1 year, like a Gardner Minshew type contract, like when you have with the Raiders. If that's the case, then okay, sure, fine. But yeah, I wouldn't sign Rodgers for some $45 million contract. Oh, $5. Easy E. Bringing the only worthy Saints content this offseason. Boom. On a whole different level. Why do we want a veteran to win meaningless games? It's not about the winning the game. So you want a veteran. Think about it like this. Kellen Moore is installing a completely new offense. Like this team, no one on the team has seen this offense. We don't have a clue what Kellen Moore is going to look like as a head coach, what he's going to be bringing to this team. It's easier to do that kind of stuff and install an offense and run a locker room if you do have a veteran. So it's not about winning the games. It's about stabilizing everything, getting the young guys up, like just having a leader in that room, having an adult in the room, in the quarterback room. I don't mean the entire locker room. That's why you want the vet. It's not about come in, win the games. That helps, like, because then, like, think about it again. If you do have that new offense and you are rocking and rolling and you are trying to get things figured out throughout the season, it helps if you can actually do it. It helps if you can play. It helps if you are proficient enough to run the offense, be in those situations, be in games, keep things close, win games here, be 500, whatever. It helps if you're doing that. It's hard to install the offense, get your culture going, get your identity going if you're just getting absolutely ass blasted. Okay? Don't Google that. All right? So those are the reasons you get a vet, not necessarily to just win games. All right? Let's see here. Watch Sanders will end up better than Ward. Possibility. There's a possibility Kyle McCord could be better than both of them. There's a possibility Will Howard could be the best quarterback in the draft. It's the draft. No one knows. Let's see here. I've already talked about the art stuff. The art stuff is insane. Let's see. McCord is the best in the class. Might be. 2 years was the perfect amount of time for Carr to play here. Not going to miss him. Yeah, I mean, I was relatively indifferent on Carr. like, I thought he was a pretty mediocre quarterback. I thought he was a pretty mid guy. I thought the way that everything went down at the end, and I've said this a million times, but I thought the way everything went down at the end, I thought was pretty bad. Like, I thought it was very toxic. I thought it was just a bad look from Carr, bad look from just everybody. So yeah, I mean, he certainly will not go down. He certainly will not go down as a fan favorite, but he won't go down as much of anything. Like, he just had a weird time here. He got hurt. The Dennis Allen stuff, the Pete Carmichael stuff. Like, it was just a real messy. It's kind of crazy, like, that we compared at the time. We compared Derek Carr and Kirk Cousins, like those two deals, and how they were both they're both kind of whatever in their own ways. And you look at both of those signings, like, those are two disastrous free agent signings. Like, what happened with the Falcons and Kirk Cousins, what happened with Derek Carr and the Saints, like, those are just horrible, horrible signings from both sides. From both sides. Do the Saints have any money if Carr can't go? Yeah, Saints. The money is not. I don't think it's that big of a deal. Let's see here. Honestly, let Rattler play and we tank. Okay, that's not an option. Tanking is not a thing. Let's see. Read some chats here. Get caught up in chat. Do I like Shedeur or Dart? I think Shedeur is better than Dart. I think Shedeur is better than Jackson Dart. I think Shedeur is good. I mean, I think Shedeur, as a prospect, I think he's highly accurate. I think he has a relatively high floor. I think you know what you're going to get with him. He's been successful everywhere he's been. He's played around and with NFL coaches. Colorado, he had Travis Hunter, but he didn't have much else. Horrific offensive line, no running game at all. Took Colorado far. I mean, they lost a tiebreaker to go to the Big 12 championship game. Takes care of the football. Good, but not great arm. He's not a guy that's going to push the ball downfield like Josh Allen, but he can make all the throws. I don't think it's not like you're not worried about Shedeur making a throw. He's not going to, Josh Allen somebody and throw the ball through their chest, but he can do what you need him to do. I would, he's people. I don't really factor in being clutch. I don't think that's like a real thing, but he has been clutch. He does have the clutch gene, some would say. However you factor that in, PFF has a luck rating, which is kind of like clutch, I guess. So you can go look at that. But I think if you're going to comp out Shedeur, I think you comp him out at like high end would be like Dak Prescott, something like that. High end would be Dak. Low end would be, a low end is like a complete bust, but it's some combination of Dak, Geno, and Tua is Shedeur. Somewhere in there. If like he's relatively successful. Obviously, like I said, you could be a bust and never play, but if he's on the field playing, then and if you told me he's Dak, I'd be totally fine with Dak for the next 10 years for the Saints. Kev's $2. Thank you very much, man. Jeremy Randazzo, $2. This is a question for the chat. This is a controversial yet brave question, Jeremy. Is Derek Carr I'll change your question a little bit. I'll rephrase it. Will Derek Carr go down as the most hated Saints player ever? What do y'all think? That's from Jeremy. That's a question from Jeremy. That's a good question. I think it's got a chance. I'll tell you that. I think we'll see how this plays out with the money and the injury, but he absolutely could be. Absolutely. I could see it playing out like that. Let's see here. FanDuel from 220 to 115. Yeah. Wonder if this is real. No, it's real, brother. It's real. It's real. It's real as it gets. It's real as it gets, man. It's real as it gets. James, when does Garrett Nussmeier enter the draft, and do you think the Saints would target him because of his father? No, I don't think they would. Doesn't mean he wouldn't be good, but I don't think they would factor in like, hey, Doug's here. You want to draft him? I think that would be unfair to Doug and Garrett if he's drafted just because his dad is there. So I don't put much stock into that. Shedeur's ceiling is being Tua. I don't think you can. You're close. You're close, but I don't think you can. You can't really quantify Tua's ceiling because Tua hasn't played long enough to have a ceiling, I don't think. So, you got to be careful with that comp. But if you say Shedeur could do like what Tua is doing and be on the same progression level as Tua, I'd be okay with that too. I mean, you can't factor in injuries. Injuries are completely random, so you can't factor that in. But if Tua was in this draft and we knew what he could do on the field, which Tua's been good when he's on the field, I'd be totally fine with taking Tua at 9. Because like I said, you just don't know about you don't know about concussions and injuries and stuff. Him or Jarius Byrd, I think because of playing quarterback, I think he's a way more hated guy than Jarius Byrd. Jarius Byrd is just a no-name, nobody, nothing. Like, who cares? You know what I mean? Like, Jarius Byrd, like, no one would even know. He could walk down Canal Street. No one would even know who he is. But Derek Carr, you certainly know who he is. Joe Horn? I think Joe Horn's loved. I'll tell you a funny story about Joe Horn. So Joe Horn is a big poker player. And I used to work valet at the Hard Rock. And Joe Horn came in one night. I worked overnight graveyard shift, son. And I was the only person working. And Joe Horn came in, and I told him, I didn't say like I know who you are or any of that stuff. I played it cool. And I was like, look, man, I'll put you up front. Like, I'll put you up front. We'll be good to go. And he was like, man, I appreciate that. Stiffed the holy hell out of me. Stiffed me right to my face. Didn't give me $1. Didn't even think about it. And I'm sitting here like, damn, man. Joe Horn. Come on. Damian Smith, $2. Aaron Rodgers, possible. Absolutely. It's worth a call. It's worth a call. Worth a call. Depends on what he wants. Depends on the contract. Depends on how long he wants to play. Depends on how available he is. Will he be in Egypt for OTAs? Will he be engaged? Will he be a mentor to the young guys? Will he be like, if Aaron Rodgers is willing to do all that, yeah, for sure, give him a call. But if he's not, then get him out. Hard Rock on the Coast. That's right. Yep. I mean, Geno had a couple good seasons. Geno's good. Like, Geno is really underrated. If you look at some of like Geno's underlying metrics and stuff, he's a legit, probably a legit top 10. I'd be comfortable saying he's a top 10 quarterback. Let's see. Hell no on Rodgers. See. It's either Sanders or Dart to New Orleans, pretty much guaranteed. I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say that. I don't think it's the issue is Dart. Like, I think if Sanders is there, you probably do take Sanders. But I don't think. Now, granted, this is all according to what Kellen Moore, like how Kellen Moore views these guys. But I don't think Dart is the 9th overall pick. So then the idea is like, well, you're not getting him at 40. So do you take someone at 9 and then try and trade back into the 20th pick to get Dart? Probably not. All right. So I don't know if they can get Dart. I don't know if they can, unless, like I said, Kellen Moore loves him, and if Kellen Moore thinks, yeah, he's the best quarterback in the draft, then I mean, whatever. But all right, let's see if we got any more news coming here. Let's see. Let's look at the latest. I'm not seeing. We need new info is what we need. We know about the injury. We know all that stuff. Yeah, I mean, I'm not seeing anything. If y'all see new actual info, make sure to let me know. So Derbify, so this is a really good bettor, sports gambler. With the news of Derek Carr injury, if you think the Saints are going to look at 9 for a quarterback, look at Dart 750 and Milroe 40-1 to be a top 10 pick. Sanders is still a question mark to a lot of teams. Just a little betting advice for y'all. If y'all are looking to take a flyer, Milroe 40-1, put a little pizza money on it, $10. Wouldn't be the worst thing you ever did. Yeah, still no news, man. Still no news. James, be honest. Do you think Sanders is a fit? Yeah, I do. But like, yeah. Here's my problem. I think Sanders is a good fit. I think Sanders is a good pick, but I wouldn't necessarily say like I'm comfortable with Sanders starting week 1. So then what do you do? That's the problem. That's the issue. The issue is because you can't start Rattler in that situation. So you got to get a vet. But now we're complicating so much stuff, right? Like we're complicating who's the vet. Now you've got like 5 quarterbacks in the room. Who's starting? Who's not? Who's getting knocked to the practice squad? Like what's all happening? So it's hard, man. It's really tough. I mean, maybe like if you get Shedeur, maybe you do just roll him out there. I don't know. I'll tell you who I think this helps. I think it does help Spencer Rattler. I really do. Because I think you're looking at that quarterback room. It ain't Jake Haener. My God. It's not Jake Haener. You'd be uncomfortable, I think, with starting Jackson Dart or Shedeur week 1 or Kyle McCord or Will Howard or whoever. If you do take Howard, if you do take McCord, if you do take Milroe, you probably have to play someone else. If you can't get a vet, you do have to play Rattler in that situation. What vets are available? Yeah, I mean, now, like, you're so late into the process, you are down to, I mean, yeah, like the Ryan Tannehills of the world. You just start Sanders at that point, all right? But here's the paradox, all right? The paradox is, here we go, ladies and gentlemen. This might blow your mind. The paradox is, if you take Shedeur Sanders 9th overall in this situation, you are assuming he is going to be your franchise quarterback. If you start him week 1, you threaten his development and you risk getting him out there too early, which we've seen a million other quarterbacks struggle with. We've seen a million other quarterbacks come in, start too early, get blown up, their career is over. So it's like, if you take him, it's because you think he can do it in the future. But if you start him early, you risk him doing it in the future. Go get Jameis. You're late on that. Giants already got him. Carson Wentz. Carson Wentz is a thought. Honestly, I don't think this should change the Saints draft strategy at all. It definitely changes it. It might not change it in like the grand scheme of things, but it definitely, they are absolutely, I can promise you this, they are absolutely, well, they're probably watching my stream, but Kellen Moore, Mickey Loomis, all of them are absolutely on a call right now. Like this is a all hands on deck emergency situation. No doubt. Now the question is, does Mickey, Kellen, and the group, do they have my stream pulled up in the room? Probably. I would think so, yeah. But if they had a vet, it's crazy because if they had Carson Wentz, I'd feel so much better about the situation. Like if they had Carson Wentz, this would be no problem. No problem. If they had Carson, it's like, all right, start Carson, draft Shedeur. He can either Carson is good enough and he plays the season, or he plays 10 games, 11 games, 12 games, and then boom, Shedeur comes in. Like that's what we're missing. We're missing that something right there. Now you could also argue, well, start Shedeur. Spencer. If Spencer Rattler's good enough, then you hike up his trade value, whatever. But there's also a chance like it's just a complete disaster. I don't think it's a complete disaster with a vet like Ryan Tannehill or Carson Wentz or whoever, just someone like that. Even like a Gardner Minshew or whatever. I predict that Loomis will pull a Mike Ditka type of trade to get Cam Ward. Spoiler alert, tomorrow I am dropping a video where I'm revisiting and breaking down the infamous Ricky Williams draft day trade. So that's tomorrow's video. Super solid video. It was a lot of fun. We really broke down the trade, saw who won, who lost, what all the draft picks ended up being. So that'll be tomorrow's video. We're drafting a quarterback, but we still need a vet to let that quarterback develop. Rattler's not even a vet. Yeah, Rattler's not even a young player. He was a rookie last year. We're starting Rattler and drafting Milroe. Again, if you had Carson Wentz, you could go get Jalen Milroe, because then it's like, all right, you just play the bridge guy for a year, you develop the other guy, like. But the problem with Rattler or whoever is that the floor is so much lower, and if the bottom falls out, you can't keep rolling them out there. You know what I mean? Like you got to have that vet who can at least be Andy Dalton. At least just be, hey man, we're gonna win 7 games. Like just exist. But you can't roll someone out there that potentially could bottom out the season or you're winning 0-1-2 games. It's crazy we haven't heard of Pete from Carr all offseason. It's insane. It really is insane. Yeah, the suck, trade down, stack picks, that doesn't work. That's not a thing. Yeah, Tyler Shue's awesome. He's awesome. I watched a lot of him in college. Do you think Shedeur will fall to 9? Do you think the Saints will take him? Yeah, I think the Saints would take him if he is there. And I do think he will fall to 9, yeah. Bad trade for the Saints, but Ricky was still a great player. Shouldn't have anyone else with Ricky on offense. Yeah. Yeah, I'll give you another spoiler for tomorrow's video, but the Saints, I don't think the Saints came out of that trade the worst. I don't think they came out with the worst. We're sending a 6th-round pick to Carolina for Andy Dalton. Dalton would be a great bridge. Ladies and gentlemen, we are officially over 1,000 viewers. Thank you very much for making that happen. We are across the multiverse. We are over 1,000 viewers, so much appreciated. What's your top 10 pick mock draft? I've done a few of these. I think it would go off the top of my head. I think it would go something like Cam Ward, Travis Hunter, Abdul Carter. I'll say Will Campbell, Mason Graham at 5, Ashton Genty at 6, Banks, the tackle from Texas, 7, 8, Jalen Walker, 9, Shedeur Sanders. Who I think it would be. If Shedeur goes to the Browns or the Giants, do they take Dart? No, I don't think so. No. Pam, what's up, Pam? Do you think we need a mobile quarterback or against the grain with a pocket passer? I think we need a good quarterback. I don't care if they're mobile or not. I think people put way too much stock into that. I think it's less about being mobile or a pocket passer or whatever. It's more about being good. It's more about being effective, more about moving the football. It's more about, like, I don't really care if they're running or not as long as they're good. You know what I mean? So I doesn't matter to me. I just want a good quarterback. That's all. Let's see here. At the end of the day, no matter what our fans think of Derek, this injury does not help things in the slightest. We desperately needed a bridge to keep the offense afloat. Yeah, I think I agree. I agree that it makes things complicated. I agree that it doesn't help the Saints. Like, this is, I think the fans like the idea that, like, there's no doubt about it, Carr's gone, but I don't think it helps the Saints. So I agree with you there. I agree with you there. Draft Dillon Gabriel. Well, okay, this is another thing to think about. If you do not get a veteran, you probably aren't going to take, like, Dillon Gabriel in the 6th round. You're not going to take some random 5th round quarterback. Like, at that point, you're probably rolling with Rattler. Like I said, the further you get into the draft board, the closer you get to Spencer Rattler. And if you're drafting Spencer Rattler and you already have Spencer Rattler, you just play Spencer Rattler. The thought of Sanders holding the ball scares me. I would say go back and watch his sacks and tell me if you think that they are sacks because he's holding the ball and he can't get through his progressions, or are they sacks because he's holding on to the ball because he's trying to be a hero running around like Caleb Williams. Shedeur is not that mobile. No, he's not. No. He's mobile. Yeah, I wouldn't call him like a mobile quarterback. He's kind of like Stroud, where, like, he's definitely not trying to run first. He can, if you let him, he can get you 10 yards. Like, he can, if it's there, he can get you there, but he's not going to, like, escape the pocket and make people miss. Like, that's not what he's going to do. Same as Stroud. Like, Stroud is not a guy who it's like Stroud's going to get out of the pocket, move around, shake, spin moving. Like, that's not what Stroud does. But he can absolutely, just take off, get 8 yards. Let's see. Did Loomis mess up, or are we just now learning the rest of the plan? We have to wait and see. We got to wait and see how the money works out.